deprived from the feminist principles. Whatever we do in these editions and between them is very much focused on feminism and feminist practices, so that's our main value. And in regard to this, we of course create a collective, and we want to create a collective with artists who are participating in our live editions, but also artists who are giving their works to us for the Perpetuum Mobile stations, but also contributing with their ideas, expertise, etc. So this is very important that we understand how the artists live, what are the circumstances in which they produce.
Yesterday also, I mean, we have been discussing with a couple of you already, like the way what is specific for, let us say, producing art or, you know, being engaged with artistic practice in the framework of post-Yugoslavia, and this in relation to some other European context, as we must know that it's a specific situation within all of the post-Yugoslav countries, and this is that art is being produced really beyond the art market. I mean, there are basically no galleries or collections that would kind of work towards sustainability of, you know, artists themselves. I mean, very rare are artists that can sell their work. Even though, of course, I mean, it's not to idolize, of course, also within, let's say, the framework of European Union. I mean, this is always a fight. It's not that, you know, these things are given, but nevertheless, we especially, I mean, within the Living Archive, we have a focus less on, let us say, already very, very acclaimed artists. It's more the generation which started producing, let us say, the 2000 or maybe a bit earlier. And this is kind of our focus, because we already were discussing yesterday, Andreja. I mean, it's a different situation now than it was 10 years before. 10 years before, artists from this region, they were exciting, they were interesting, also due to political, you know, conflicts that kind of gave, in a perverse way, some added value, you know, to the art. Like, you know, so what kind of art is coming from this, you know, Schluchten des Balkans? Yeah.
There are a couple of differences. One thing is this political and geographical agenda, which is this 3 big shows about Balkan.
So this was quite, I mean, shocking overall, because it was really kind of making the Balkan, which is from some touristic point of view from the West society in the 80s, I would say. So it's not even a contemporary Balkan from the West, but it's some kind of really strange construction of what Balkan can be or what Balkan is today. And most of the artists was quite angry on the exhibition, so I will not exhibit you in this exhibition, but I know that a lot of my friends who was exhibiting there was really shocked when they saw the context, how they put the works together and what that meant and how they explained the whole concept of Balkan. And this is one thing, so this is one agenda, and I think it's quite wrong. But there is another things about how to say, when the East Europe opened, there was a few nice things and a few bad things. So one of the bad things was that, and the other one was that a lot of people, especially from Vienna, especially from Austria, came to be very joking about that they came to 2000 and they want to buy the whole conceptual art from 70s in ex-Yugoslavia, and it was really like that. They were paying like €100 per work or something like this. And it was, I mean, it was perverse. I mean, it was really bad, and the artists felt really bad. But that was the opening, and people were really demanding, and they really had a collection of conceptual art for €2,000, and that's again the bad side. But then a good side was that there was really a lot of other people, younger or maybe people who are not involved in the market, don't have so much, like curator, researcher, and they was going around and really talking with us about doing project with us and invited us to a couple of big shows which was not colored by Yugoslavia, Balkan War, but it was colored by the subject which was completely the same for the East or the West artists, and I think this is where we felt good. So in this exhibition you felt that you are not coming from a country, but you are what you are, and you have a topic and you do something, and this is interesting, and this is in collaboration with some other works which comes from West Europe, and I think that was nice, and we had a lot of nice discussions and meetings, and the people was quite interested in a nice way. So I think that was good, and that lasted like 10 years, and it was really a lot of people who came through Ljubljana, Zagreb, Belgrade, Sarajevo, so all they went to even smaller cities, which was really great because this centralizing thing again is our problem. We are very centralized, and I feel really bad for the artists who live in Broadway or in Split because they never meet these people, so they have to travel, they have to pay the travel to come to Zagreb. So I mean, in between this again, there's a lot of problems, so it's not that easy anyway. But let's say this was good, and this was nice because these people came with money for the production, and then we had this really clear situation that first you sign a contract, you know how much fee you will have, you know how much the production and all the money for traveling are also available for you. So, and this was easy and nice, I have to say. And now it's a different situation, and I don't know how the younger artists will make their ways, because first we don't have a gallery system, so nobody really push them, or if we do have these are not powerful galleries, we can go to some big exhibitions, which we all know that it's going like that, to push the artists. The researchers are not coming so much as before, they go to more south and more east. So I think for the people, I'm also teaching in the academy, so for the students, I think it's really not the same and it's really not easy. And now I don't know, we have to figure out some ways how to help them or how to make them visible for the contemporary art context, at least in Europe, if not further. And then the second or the third thing we can maybe talk about is the question of the European Union, which is so far so bad. So I don't know. For us, it seems worse and worse. But maybe we can look at that question later. So let's go back to.
So you don't have also that private galleries and doesn't exist in
Croatia.
Okay, because
maybe
it's
there
the
are
same
some, but
in Ljubljana.
You have at least one.
One.
Yes, you have at least one. Yeah.
Yes. Right now the problem is the right government, because they're cancelling all the culture ministry and they want to take money out. And then the private sector, as I said, they don't have this education, what to buy, how to buy. They're maybe true collectors. They're buying only Irving or NSK, and that's it now. So, yeah.
It's totally different situation from now, because in a way when we became Slovenia, I think there were some initiatives to buy paintings and there was something going on, but then this recession came very soon when we started to work as artists, and it just stopped everything. So, and now even like as Mita said, the only one resource that we have, like the Ministry of Culture, is like pushes us totally into a situation that you don't know what is going to happen in future.
But in the same time, the Museum of the Contemporary Art is open in Vienna.
Yeah, but they're totally without money
For program.
and they don't have even money, they say,
For
like for
electricity.
and they cannot buy, they stopped buying artworks for their archive.
And how they connect it now, because they have also archive, how they connect with artists, with young artists, that this is some kind of outsourcing program or so.
This, we don't have much help from these institutions. We are all the time complaining that they are not doing their job. At least I think it would be great if they would connect practice with Western Europe or I don't know, curators and stuff, but they don't do it. Like, so there should be like a mutual understanding, not that you just get something from us, but we should get something from you. It's because in Slovenia we're so small, and soon you just you go everywhere in Slovenia, and it becomes boring, you know. You want to go further to conquer the world. I don't know. It's like that. So, and these are the people who have connections actually, but it's like I think they do this only with a few artists or group artists.
Yeah.
But they are listening slowly. They are trying also to help us. It's not so. Now they understood that we are a young generation, that we want to do something, that it's not that we are just painting on Sundays, but we want to have this, this is our job now. So slowly we are getting to their minds.
In my view, I think that, you know, this is interconnected also to the problem of the disrepresentation or very minor representation also of curators coming from the region, basically, because there are so few names that, you know, are able to do exhibitions in decent international exhibitions in decent conditions outside. And I think this is also a problem, because there are, you know, names we could now maybe, you know, use 10 fingers of ours, and these are the names, or even less, that kind of really promote artists within the international arena. And I think that curators as well as artists are quite of very similar position from the region. But how, for example, if you get publicly subsidized project to develop, or if you get invited by a publicly subsidized exhibition project in Slovenia, how it's about the production costs and about the fees.
Usually
is there
everything for production?
Usually, I mean, there are only a few exhibitions that I and you together did, and we got some kind of a honorarium or the fee. More you work and the years go by, you think, oh, I would really love to go to the next level. I think I'm old enough and I have enough experience to go over that. But it's all the time this feeling as you are at the beginning, as you would be still a student. So how much money we have for the production, but it's usually that we have money only from ministry, and before, I think it was much more easier before this recession. You could call somebody and they would support you with the material, but now even that's totally closed, because, you know, it's this fear all around us.
In Germany, for example, they have this law that if there is a public building project that it's subsidized from public money, a certain percentage should be put into the art commission. You know, so basically a lot of visual artists or contemporary artists that I know, they basically live from these Kunstprojekte projects. You know, and out of this they live, and then they do their.
But there is also this law in Slovenia. I think that this is one of the conditions that Ministry of Culture supports one project, but it's usually how we call it. It doesn't happen like that. Like the gallery just doesn't give you that, and again, it's money, or you decide you will put this money into the production because there's no money, not enough money for production, and also. I think they have really low price for the honorarium. Like, for example, you work for 6 months, but the law is like the minimum is 200 or 300 euros for the honorarium. So actually, you cannot live out of it. It's just like you can go for a big drink after the opening.
Then we spend during the production.
our city, in Banja Luka, it is not possible even to apply as an individual. You have to be a member of some kind of association or something, and that is like the more even more impossible situation. You know, because if you want to work alone as an artist, you don't want to be mixed with anybody. Just I want to do my thing. It's so impossible. And what frustrates me the most are some really great young artists that are finished academy and had a few good productions from their own money, and they started to make art because they don't have the money. You know, they have to work for the living. And for me, this is like artists are disappearing every year because of that. You know, because when they start to work something that doesn't involve art, they immediately do something else. Stop dealing with the art.
But I think it's quite normal if you do art that you are also doing something else. Like I noticed that almost everywhere it's like that. You never an artist that except the really famous one, with the rich, but usually or they're teaching or they're doing like some graphic design or stage design. But the problem right now in Vienna is that there is no jobs because it's a critical situation right now. So this is kind of I think the biggest problem right now.
Well, I can say for my production at least, this is all for my money, you know, because I cannot, for example, make works like plan this big work and then apply because I need to work now when I want to work, you know, and actually at those occasions I don't have the money. I use the one that I make at the Academy of Art while teaching students, you know.
I can say for the situation in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is probably the worst that you can imagine. The situation is that museums are closing, like the National Museum, like Museum of Urša. They don't have money for electricity, for staff, etc. But also their program is they don't have a program. People working there are people who have a problem with understanding when you offer them a program, what you want and how this can look, and they think that you're just gonna come there and occupy their space, and they understand this is like more work for them rather than seeing it as a strategy of survival. And also Bosnia is, as you know, it's such a divided country. We have around 143 ministries that are just spending money for their salaries. So in the cultural sector, Borjana can also say something about that, but the situation is that you have that there should be some budget on the state level for this EU culture program that wasn't just entered. But since we didn't have a government for a year, this money just disappeared somewhere, we don't know where. So we decided to organize and form an association for culture and art. It's called Crvena, which means red. And so our members are artists, most of them are artists, and we try to apply for different projects and to help them do what they want to do, produce the work they want to do, or participate in some sort of the project. And I'm Living Archive is also one of these initiatives together with Bettina from Ljubljana. And that's actually how we managed to at least, it's a really small effort, but at least somehow to empower them, because everything is very mainstream. Our culture is actually festivalized. It's festivals that are very important, like Sarajevo Film Festival, maybe some theater festivals, but other than that, nothing really happens. Nothing radical, nothing different.
What is your response towards, are there any self-organizing?
Yeah, I just said, because this was the only strategy that we could invent actually in Sarajevo. Because if you don't organize, there is no way. Everyone works for free. I'm director, so I work for free. I'm squatting the office of the Center for Human Rights. They gave me a table with a computer it gives us some sort of empowerment and joy when we do things we do, but most of the time it's very hard because everyone does something else, earning money for existence, and then, you know, these extra few hours in a day that you have, you just work more to make this thing happen. So it's very, I mean, it lasts for, I'm also an activist for the past almost 20 years, 20. So it's really tough because, as you say, I mean, it's just, you just cannot do it anymore. It's not, I mean, you don't see things are happening. People are just used to the fact that you will do it because you want it so much. They count on this situation. Okay, they will want to do it, so they will do it for 1,000.
There is also in art and curatorial practice, and in art practice, all those residency programs and the way of production and commissioning art. There are a lot of artists, particularly from Bosnia also, Lana Adela, going for 1 month, 3 months somewhere to produce work. And this is, I think, a new way of production of art, because you go from place to place, and I'm interested about what you think about it and this way of production. Because
you can do it if you are alone, if you don't have
this
it.
is but just I'm like to ask the artists, which is
family. I mean, if you have family, I mean, it's also for curators, you know, what to do then. I mean, you get the residency, but you cannot pay a babysitter, full-time babysitter at this place to, you know. So it's something for neoliberal free subjects not having
This is also mostly from the young.
I don't know, maybe you should meet the expert. She was there, she went to Finland, to Helsinki for 3 months. I haven't been on residency, only for 1 month in London, but this is Slovenian flat in London from Ministry of Culture, and they just pay you for travel expenses. The money, or everything you have to provide on your own. So
And accommodation.
yeah, no, the accommodation is paid.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's not really the space where you would produce as a visual artist. Maybe if you are a media artist or something, it's more like to connect yourself with others, or the artists that are living there, or to see what London-based artists are doing there. So.
But I notice also that I have to put a lot of effort, that something will happen. So it wasn't obvious that an exhibition would happen after my residency. So I had to talk with people. So it's sometimes artists are just waiting and something will happen, but it's not like that. You have to just work on that, no? And the other thing that I noticed that here, this my organization, when they started to work, they were more connected with local scene, so they were having a lot of public. But then they got money from European money, European support, and they just this like PR wasn't working so good anymore, because they were just occupying about these papers and bureaucratic things, and with printing invitations and where to put logos. So when they asked me if I was satisfied with them, I said, yeah, that I think that local people should be involved in such an organization, and also artists that, of course, my initiative was I wanted to collaborate with some Finnish artists, so I just called my curator and said to her, I really want to be in touch with somebody that is working in the studio. So she was helping me, but this was my initiative, and I think that they should work also on that things. No? So I think a lot of residency programs, they're really close in their programs, and I don't know, because this was also my first experience. I don't know how it's with other residency. But on the other hand, it was really good because I had a salary every month, and production money, and studio, and they gave me a bicycle and phone, all these facilities that makes you free, no? That you can travel and you feel like at home. And I was really concentrated on my work, so this was really, because also I'm having a daughter, so I was alone without my family, working just on my project, which was really, yeah, I found something that I didn't know before my practice. This is kind of my experience.
And I think this is somehow that, so you can live in for 10 years or something after you came out from university, because then you get retired, and as you said, you really have to have skills for these residencies. You have to know what you want, why you go there, who you will meet, how much money you will have. You have to prepare much before you go, exactly before you meet outside the residency people, because otherwise you can stuck, they don't want to help you and you don't know anyone. So we always try to search who was there, who we know, what happened, what they think, what are the problems. So I think you really have to have skills. You develop skills to find your way, and then of course when you go to one residence, then the people who you meet, you tell them which others are okay, and then you apply for that and what kind of things they are, because I think it's really important that you get in a place you can develop your work, and all the works are different, so you really have to think where you go, and nobody will help you. That's the bottom line. You have to initiate, and you really have to work on that to work. But so for the students, we always try to push them to go to these residencies, at least to make the application and try to teach them how to choose the best one for them and how to apply, and they are successful with it. I'm really happy about it, and we always try to explain them that you have to send like 20 or 30 application, and maybe 2 or 3 will make it, and it's not because your work are not good, but it's because it's not a perfect match, because they also want to match their needs in the art they invite. So it's not about the quality, it's more about this matching. And the other thing we try to explain, initiate with the students that you always have your, the people you are studying with, peers. So we always try to make them stick together with peers. It's a small, so you have 6 to 8 students in 1 year. So we really try to explain them that they will stay together and we will stay in university and have another 6 or 8 students, and that they have to figure out some methodology, some strategy, how to make themselves visible. First of all in the Zagreb scene, then Croatian scene, then a little bit more. And these strategies can be really different. It's not that they have to do the same as the students before them or after. But and now how the years passing by, I can see that there are really smart strategies they are doing, and we try to help them in the beginning, and then of course you could not follow all of them. But I see that they apply together for exhibition, then you have some thematic thing, they do some concept, and then all the, they're different things, and I can see that they're
more into develop scene.
Yes, they develop their own little, and then, but also I think it's not good that everybody is on the, how to say that, that everybody's off. We have to try to get in the center of the thing, not always, not that everyone will little circle of, your 50 people and then,
I don't know, my experience was that I was studying in Venice, and I had this experience to exhibit it in abroad, but then I came in Slovenia, and all my exhibition just stopped. Everything was happening only in Slovenia for 5 years, and I really felt this, I was having this wish to go out and to see where am I standing as an artist, because in Slovenia I knew what kind of scene is happening. So And when I came in Helsinki, I was having huge cries because I said, "Wow, this is too much artist and so different." It was really hard first month, but then I started to like my mind was like just open, and it was really something else, something bigger than I expect now from me. So it is.
I mean, most of what you say is basically new to me, therefore I'm just listening, but I was so amazed to hear that there's basically no connection between the producing people and the kind of gallery scene, or that most of the artists, they don't produce to be successful in kind of a market situation, but they do it in a totally separate area. And then you mentioned that in the past there were collectors and artists could live on their work. And I was just wondering, when did that happen? I mean, this split or this drift. When did art production lose its acceptance in society? I don't know. I mean, that was most puzzling for me when you said these are two separate things. Potential customers, although they may suffer from the crisis, and the sophisticated art scene that basically works without the hope of getting acceptance from those who could take an interest. Very, very.
I think the problem was because we were having socialism now, so actually, at least as I'm too young, but as I understood, the government was the one that
the commissioner,
the commissioner. And then when we separate, at least in Slovenia, the capitalism came, so this private gallerism wasn't so developed. We didn't have this kind of a mentality to
art. Usually it should be something desirable somehow, but it obviously doesn't have that status. It's something
it doesn't have. Slovenia doesn't have that status.
Yeah, because for example, one of my colleagues, he's now like becoming 60, and when he was at our age, he, for example, sold 10 paintings and got the atelier studio for 100 square meters in exchange. And he was explaining that all of the furniture that he got for his home was actually exchanged for the painting. And then, in a way, I think that was in 80s, and that the art was really like worldwide, really something that people cherished. And it was the only time that really meant a lot in general, not just. And then this separation started to, as I understood, like that there's only this really high art, that it's costs really, really a lot, and it's about prestige, and it's about the game between rich people who will have more, and there is this big gap between all of the rest of us. Mm-hmm. And before it was more like linear, it was not that much difference, and now I think the art itself doesn't mean anything to these new bourgeois people who became rich after we accepted capitalism.
No, but we have another problem, because by coming from socialism, a lot of people think that the state should take care about us, and this is something we have to learn in a way, that these are no state which should take care, because it's not like that. It was like that in 80s. But I think that was a big wake up for a lot of people, a lot of artists. And I think we really have to learn to build up our strategies.
But then again, we have to talk then about some cultural policies and some cultural strategies, which again our countries does not have or do not have. So I mean,
because art is very much understood as commodity, especially after the war. Everyone's like, that's not a priority. People are hungry. People are traumatized. Art is not, not now. We don't have sort of hidden agendas that are very much into the line with this retrograde politics.
But they're not so hidden though.
Yeah, agendas are quite obvious.
Almost each project we have a situation where we as curators and together with artists, and we are actually the authors of the show together, you know, get like really in comparison to other people involved, let it be translators, designers, live together, putting, I mean, the best it would be if it's clinically, but it's not, you know, maybe there are some webmasters who just upload something that we could upload as well, and then get, you know, double, you know, of the work. So I think it's really about, you know, like this strategy of really like forcing to, because even if this is, it doesn't have the immediate value, it has the spillover effect, and it's like about, you know, this attack since the last 50 years when they're trying to tax the transactions, you know, like, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's not really about that, but it's, you know, basically it should be about political project of the valorization of our work, which is maybe doesn't have immediate value right now, but I mean, these things are measurable, you know, on the large scale, you know.
I always have this perverted idea that it's somewhere like the situation in Slovenia that is right now. They were cutting our rights and money, and so that we should all step back, you know, and then they will see what they have if nobody will go. Yeah, exactly. But there's always like someone who would still work, and this is actually impossible. But it would be really great to see if you don't put money for culture and if you're not supporting culture. So let's not have it. Let's just not have it.
In a way, to the questions for us, I must say we were very lucky that we had, you know, this group, and you know, everyone is so solid. They produce together. We, you know.
Yeah, but it's double-sided. We all do this in a very self-exploitative framework. You know, so basically, you do a feminist project and with feminist impetus, but at the end of the way, we are all overworked and get and are underpaid or not at all. You know, so basically, you are, you know, reproducing.
I just wanted to. I was just thinking why this was happening, and I think also one of the reasons was that most of the culture was supported by the government. This is Ministry of Culture, so most of the organizations were having money, so they were kind of lazy, you know. So that's why nobody did care about selling works or going into commercial way, you know. So when our gallerist was opening the gallery, which was private gallery, the people were saying, you are too commercial, you have too much public, you are not intellectual. And actually now it's the problem, because when the ministry start giving money, all the institutions, they have problems because they don't have public. So people don't go into museums and they are not selling enough tickets. So this system of government funding is kind of a collapsing, and we don't have also this private gallerism, which is more directed in art first, for example. As I said before, these private collectionists, they don't have educations about contemporary art, because we don't have any exhibition of contemporary art. It's just Slovenian art, or maybe some, I don't know, Croatian, Serbian, or we don't have. For example, we have Venice Biennale, it's near Slovenia, but nobody goes to see it. So.
But see, I mean, does any of you work in an art educational way? I mean,
no, this is another problem.
Yeah.
It used to be like that you, if you finish the academy and you got this bachelor degree or did whatever, so you usually, most of them were then educated, like in primary school or secondary school. But then there was a new law that this could be that you could be a teacher only if you have if you did exams, or I don't know how to go, if you had so it's not allowed for you. And this, if you finish like academy, then you have to pay like 2,000 euros or 3,000, I don't know how much this costs. And you have to go through all this procedure, and you really have to be determined, like, okay, I will teach. It's not, you know, they in a way pushed us away from this. It's only reserved for those who took this academy, or how do you call it? Faculty, faculty for the education.
So basically no art, any proper art education at school.
No, you can be a professor, but it's like only
Art historians are basically.
No, but there are like, if you teach at the academy as a painter, if you're a painter, they can buy you at this, but it's really hard because it's only a few courses there, and it's too small.
I think I need to come back maybe to this question of how to change something in the situation, or how to organize or lobby. I think so. I was just on a larger conference on arts and humanities, and there was these debates were going on all the time, and there were different projects presented. Among others, an initiative for a creative strike. The other initiatives are much broader in the sense that they really try to look at labor conditions generally in society and make a connection between working conditions in the arts and working conditions generally in, let's say, precarious and material labor, and try to make coalitions with other people who work in different fields, but let's say structurally at least, in similar conditions. And this was a huge debate there. I mean, what is the most relevant or effective strategy? And I do think it's important. I mean, from my point of view, at least, it's important to really go beyond only the art world. Although in certain contexts, of course, it might be important, but like to really go broader than that.
You know what is, because I have been talked a lot about in Slovenia and other problematics, but what I find at the moment right now very problematic is that, you know, we still have some good functioning system of social and medical care for the artist, which is, for example, in the UK, they don't know it at all. So if you, as a freelance artist, if you get registered, I mean, if the special commission at the Ministry of Culture says, yeah, your work is valuable, it should be supported by the way that your public and social assurance is subsidized from the public budget, then you know when you're ill you can apply, so you get some money, or when you are on maternity leave you get some money, you get some, you know, and this is right now being extremely cut, you know, and it's very little initiative, you know, how to stop this cutting, you know, because this is a system that was, you know, at least some security in case you were ill, you know. There are so many artists within the UK, but also, you know, in Austria, we just talked yesterday to one of them, you know, who's now ill and doesn't know how to pay her rent, you know, because she's still a student, you know, her family cannot. So, and there are so little initiatives to stop this, this dissolution of a good model, you know, of a functioning good model. So it's really about, you know, the valorization of our work. Basically, it's a really retrograde matrix that it's right now, you know, it's very barbaric.
In what sense, but not in a way of other parts of the institution, that you can be registered as an artist. Like, no, it's not possible. It's not possible to be one person company or whatever kind of thing. And from each of the honorarium you get as a freelance, you have to pay around 56% for different taxes.
50%, 60% tax.
If you want to have pension and health insurance. Other than that, you get this like 17 and 19% tax, but it doesn't, you're just throwing away this money. And you cannot actually pay anything in cash, like, there's no way you can do it, so everything has to go through transactions. And you, for example, Borjana cannot give you a receipt in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I cannot do anything with it. I have to make a contract with her, and then I have to pay taxes to her municipality, and then I can pay her. So it's really, for all the sides involved where there is money, even if it's really small money, they just take. There's no system in which you get something from it.
How you call it? So it's important to do works about it, huh? For the discursive dissemination of what we do. This is our language. This is how we, basically. So it's also about artist propaganda.
But then also, of course, I think there's something in art, in doing art, that is very, that makes it easy to be exploited like this, and that makes us all work for free, basically. But I do think that the whole development of capitalism is so that a similar condition also applies to other works. I've just read a report about a study in Germany that they published about happiness. What constitutes happiness? And then they give examples. I don't know now, I'm sorry, but I don't know exactly who commissioned it and who did it, because I found it very dubious. But what they presented as results were stories of people like a single mother working in short-term employments, but self-employed, or doing works like 400-euro jobs in Germany, which is a special system in supermarkets. And she had this whole thing of that she's happy and fulfilled as long as she can work, even if the money that she gets through this work is actually in the end less than what she would become through public subsidies. And I found it very interesting, this combination of happiness and labor. And although, of course, the individual conditions are different than for the arts, and I think it's much more common in the arts to say, okay, I still do it even if I don't get money because I fulfill something or it's a need in me. But I do think there's a similarity in general working conditions today.
Thank you very much for participating. I hope it was at least relaxing, if it's not empowering for everyone.
Informative.
Yeah, some sort of therapeutic, Everyone tells
for us.
At least we shared our problems between us, and you can always say it's what is there situation. No, joking. But thank you very much. We really enjoyed these discussions. That's why we, on the Sarajevo edition, we also opened the station of curatorial forums and artist talks, because it is some sort of educating people who come to the exhibition, because normally nothing happens. You just look at the artwork, and rarely you have the opportunity to talk to the artist. So that was the idea, and thank you very much.